Happy Sunday, everyone. I'm a few minutes late because I didn't quite make it home from where I was this morning. So I'm coming to you live from a lovely picnic bench in a high school parking lot. There's also a race car going around the parking lot right now, which is kind of neat. So today's topic is the groomer shortage. Where are all the groomers? My sister is moving back home, and so I've been helping her try to find a job. And then I've also, my boss is looking for bathers and probably another groomer. We're really, really booked. It's hard. It's rough on both sides. There's, looking for places. Some of these ads are insane. And then as an employer, looking for someone that's the right fit is also almost impossible. And I think that I've realized over the last month of trying to help Michelle and watching my boss struggle is that it's a lot of expectations. We're really busy at Lovely Rita's, and part of that is my boss is really busy. So when we hire a bather, they're kind of thrown to the wolves. That's not a bad thing. I mean, trial by fire is kind of a legitimate way to, do stuff with people, but it doesn't exactly. When someone comes in and they're not confident, they don't have any experience, they're not sure what you want them to do, they're nervous, throwing them into a full day is tough. But it's also tough to take time out of your schedule to properly interview someone. On the flip side of that, I have looked at these ads for Michelle because a lot of people are advertising on Facebook Marketplace. And you can really only get your local Facebook Marketplace. It keeps resetting. It's really annoying, actually. Back to your local. So if you're looking to move and you're looking for rentals, because I'm also helping my sister-in-law, she's moving back home, you have to keep adjusting. And it can be frustrating. So I would propose to the grooming community that it's not a groomer shortage. I think that on both sides, expectations are too high. We're all in these very old mindsets, the mindsets of the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It's 2019. It's about to be a brand new decade. We've got less than 6 months left in a decade, and nothing has changed. Employees, W-2 employees, you don't deserve 50%. I know everyone's going to grasp their pearls and cry about it, but think about the worst job you had and you got paid 50%. Did that make you happy? Did that make that job any less terrible? I owned a business, and it's extremely expensive, and it's almost impossible to pay somebody 50% and still have money left over for other things, like paid time off and health benefits and dental. And a lot of these groomers, they go to corporate because they have 50% and those things. That's not realistic for a private shop. And a private shop can offer you a better quality of life. You get better clients, better pricing, less of the price hoppers. But yeah, maybe you're only going to make 43% or 45%. Businesses have expenses, and so as employees, we need to temper our expectations. One place near me pays $13 an hour plus 30%. And it makes sense. Because when it's slow, they're still getting paid. When they have to clean, they're still getting paid. I see so many groomers come out of grooming school and demand 50%. And they demand, this and they demand that. And it's not that you don't deserve your worth. But a percentage doesn't mean jack shit. Pardon my language. 50% of $100 is $50. 40% of $200 is $80. Which would you prefer for a dog? You know, it's the same thing. You can get 50% of 50 or 40% of 65, and the 40% is higher. It's the pricing that matters. The pricing that matters. And I honestly think, on a whole, you know, the beauty industry and our industry are very similar, and this percentage mindset needs to die. I'm not saying everyone should get hourly, but you need to honestly look at yourself as a groomer and prioritize what's important to you. Because although maybe you're not getting 50% of that groom, if you're getting health insurance, if you're getting dental, if you're getting any paid time off, those are all part of your salary. That's all part of your income. Those are things that you are not paying out of pocket. I mean, yes, you'll pay a percentage of your health insurance typically, but not the full thing. Change your mindset. I worked in an office. I got paid $13.50 an hour, and I had full benefits, and it was terrible. It wasn't terrible because of my salary. It was terrible because I don't like office work, and I did get raises. And when you allow the business owner to make money for the business, you're going to have a better work environment. Change the mindsets. Now, employers, why can't you find a groomer? First off, if you are paying people $10.99, stop hiring. That is not legal. Only under very specific, very vague, like rare circumstances is a $10.99 legal, and it's not your employee anyway. They pay you. $10.99 is like a rent. Like I gave my landlord a $10.99. You can't hire as a $10.99. You can't. You don't have any control. That is somebody else's complete other business. If you have a bunch of rooms that, you know, you're the landlord and you're renting the rooms out to groomers, if you're a vet and you're renting a space out to a groomer, if you're a pet shop and you're renting a space out to the groomer, that's a $10.99, but they're paying you a rent. You're not touching their business. You're not setting prices, hours. You have no control over quality. Here comes the race car. Really, really weird area I'm in right now. Completely unnecessary, sir. So, the other thing, if you are hiring for a W-2 and you list all these insane requests, like every Saturday, you must work every Saturday. Groomers are people. You're a human being. And I know this is a little less positive than most of my live posts, but I'm just really irritated. You can't require somebody to work every Saturday or else. And if they need a Saturday off, you cannot hold that against them. It's not fair. Life happens on Saturdays. That's what the majority of Americans have off. If you need them to do 8 to 10 dogs a day by themselves between the hours of 8 and 3 p.m., like, you're not going to get a quality groomer. If you have shoddy equipment or, you know, things that are like, oh, well, you know, you just need to like jiggle this and jiggle that and do this and do that. You know, you're not going to find somebody. Nobody wants to work someplace where they have to remember the 12 steps to move the grooming arm or to get the table to go up and down. You have to take care of your equipment. And that's, you know, again, with this mindset of everybody deserves 50%. You need a clean environment. You need a happy environment, and you should want that for your pets, for your people that come in. You know, you want that shop is a piece of you, and you need to take pride in it. And it can't just be good enough in the lobby. You know, broken down equipment affects efficiency and the amount of dogs people can do and the quality of the groom. If you have a dryer and the brushes haven't been changed in 2 years, that dryer is not really working. It's just not. Those carbon, they start out like this, and then they get smaller and smaller and smaller, and you're losing airflow. And you could tell you'll get more like carbon dust on your hands, so your hands will have like a little bit of a grayness to them, or the dryer will get super hot and start burning you for the hose, because that heat is a byproduct of friction, and there shouldn't be that much friction with the carbon brush because it goes up and down into the little holder. If you have ever seen it, they're springy, and as they get smaller and smaller, they get less springy and springy. You have to take care of your equipment. Another thing, if you are hiring an employee, I saw this ad from Florida my friend shared. No. They wanted somebody they're moving locations and they're hiring 2 to 3 groomers. But they want the groomers to spend their time walking around the neighborhood handing out business cards. You don't need 2 to 3 groomers. You need 1 groomer, and you need to set your prices. And then when that 1 groomer is booked out, 3 or 4 weeks, you add a bather. And that bather takes over bath dogs and nail trims and ear cleaning. And, you know, then we're booked out 4 weeks again. Hire another bather. Have that bather assist the groomer when she needs it. Get, you know, a good workflow going. And then if in 4 weeks you're booked out again 4 weeks, you raise your price. Just keep raising your price until you get to a steady point. And if you're charging $120 for a Shih Tzu and you're still booked out 4 weeks, God bless you, then hire another groomer. And I'm being a little facetious there, but the reason there's no groomers to be hired is because the places that are hiring want too much. They want a full-time groomer, and they cannot provide that groomer with an income. Or they can, but they expect you to do 22 dogs. No lie, a boarding kennel near us wants someone to do 22 outtake baths, all sizes, and then 8 full grooms in a day by themselves, the groomer. That's not happening. That is not physically possible unless it's really shoddy work. And then why bother at that point? Why bother? You need to keep the equipment up. You need to make it reasonable for people. You need to make it reasonable for people to want to work for you. And you need to also offer something that makes somebody want to work for you. Whether it's a flexible schedule or every other Saturday off, or, you know, you alternate Saturdays and, you know, lunch once a week, healthcare. But the most important thing is your work environment. If I go to an interview and the other groomers don't look up and say hello, that's an issue. And I've been at places like that before. I actually asked a few of my friends, like, what's the worst things that have happened? And similar stories. I worked at a place called Dogma. It's closed now. It was sold and had a new owner. And, you know, nothing was going to change. And then all of a sudden she wanted to change everything. She wanted to keep everybody's tips. She wanted to tip herself out, the owner, who was not a groomer. Because she answered the phone occasionally, or she ran the place. I can't remember what her reasoning was. And then she decided she was going to let the bathers scissor up the golden feet and all this other stuff. And but it was like steadily like taking away, but not giving anybody anything in return. And it was always done hostily. So you can get people in for an interview, and you could even hire somebody and then they don't work out because of the work environment. You need a good work environment. You need your equipment to work. You need high quality equipment. I'm not working someplace with a folding table as my main table. I do a folding table at my house for like my personal dogs and my Kerry Blues that I do, my client dog I use in competition. I have an electric table at my house. It's not working. And I'm not going to jack it up to the right height and like screw it in because it's basically a folding table at that point. Folding tables are not your equipment. I would even go so far as to say a hydraulic table shouldn't be used for big dogs. Depending on the style and the manufacturer, some hydraulics are very, very good. Some are shaky and wobbly, and that's going to make the dogs uncomfortable. It's going to make the groomer uncomfortable. Every little thing that you think is not a big deal adds up because it's another grain of sand. And that's why a lot of places don't keep good groomers. And also, let's define a good groomer. I am a competition groomer. I'm nationally certified. I'm nationally ranked right now. I'm a good groomer. I would go so far as to say I'm a great groomer. That doesn't mean that Judy, who just graduated grooming school and has 0 experience, is not a good groomer. Is it more important for you to have dogs that are perfectly polished and finished, or a groomer who's willing to learn and get better and make big improvements and is kind to the dogs and works hard when they're there? I see a lot of places requiring 5+ years of experience. After 5 years, you are looking at somebody from PetSmart. I'm a PetSmart groomer. That's where I learned. I grew up in PetSmart, grooming wise. I worked there for 5 years, and after 5 years, I was done. I was stressed out. I was a salon manager. It was terrible. And it was, 10 years ago. So I'm sure things have changed. I see a lot of positive changes. I'm sure that's still stressful. It all depends on the store management. But the way things are done at PetSmart are not the way that are going to be done at your salon. So if that person comes in and they have a good personality and they're willing to learn and they're kind to the dogs, if they don't groom exactly like you do, or maybe they're a little less than the level that you would like, you can't write them off. No one's ever going to groom like you. It drives me insane when people are like, I need everyone to groom the same in my shop. No one's going to groom the same. And that's okay. Because there's going to be a client that didn't like the way that Anne did this dog, but they like the way that Mary did. And so then that becomes Mary's client. And then eventually Mary gets booked up. And then eventually Anne finds people that didn't like Mary's style. And it's all about allowing your customers to know who groomed their dog. And yeah, if Anne leaves or Mary leaves, those customers might not like, their replacement Tracy. But you want to make sure that when you get those Anns and those Marys, the ones that have a style and get a following, you make them happy and you keep them. It's so much easier to keep an employee by investing in your work environment, by investing in your employees, and also telling them, wow, that dog looks really nice. I hear thank you a lot at my job. I very, very rarely hear that dog looks great or that dog's really cute. I do hear that they don't like what they don't like often. So I get thank you and what they don't like, but I never really get any positive feedback. It's very, very rare. Now I cry a lot because I have a lot of anxiety, and a sports psychologist I read today said that crying is a healthy release. So just an FYI. It doesn't bother me so much at work, but it, sometimes does. Sometimes I go home and I'm like the worst groomer in the world. And I know objectively I'm not, but it's just not something that happens at that shop. if you want people to work for you, you need to make it a place that you would want to work. You opened your shop because you didn't like something about the last place you worked, or you wanted to make changes and do something. So don't become your bad bosses. Don't become that shop you hated. There's a lot of places that are not great for working environment and things, and people stay, and it's never because of the money. Money never made anyone happier. Now, no one's going to work for $10 an hour because this is a highly skilled job. It requires a lot of commitment and a lot of continued education and expensive equipment. Even if it's just your hand tools, those clippers are expensive. Clipper blades are expensive. All of those, sharpening is expensive. So you need to not treat your groomers that you do have like slaves, or they should be grateful to be here, because they will find some place that is a better fit, that allows them more flexibility in their schedule, that has better equipment, that makes improvements, that, keeps the house cleaner, so to speak. Is fair about if they have a bather, okay, so you do one of Mary's dogs, one of Amy's dogs, one of Jane's dogs, and you keep rotating through, so everybody is always constantly working and no one's standing around twiddling their thumbs. There's a groomer shortage because there's not a shortage of groomers. Because everybody goes out and they open a house call, or they open a mobile, or they open their own shop because they're tired. They're tired of not being treated as just another groomer. Everybody feels that. Everybody wants to be taken professionally. They want professionalism in this industry, and they want to be treated like pet professionals, and we deserve that. We do. So we have to stop treating each other like just another groomer. You're just a groomer, because they're not. A groomer is an artist. They're empathetic. They love animals. Nobody ever got into this business to abuse dogs. And I'm not making excuses for there are mentally ill people that need help, that, yes, stuff happens, but you know what? Sometimes, too, a lot of frustrations can be avoided by making everything as positive as you can. Why make your day more stressful by dealing with this broken equipment? Why make your day more stressful by, being, well, that's not how I do my heads. Is the dog cute? Is it clean? Was it taken care of in a nice manner? That's what's important. Terry said, it's not easy to be an owner either. No, Terry, it's not. I owned a shop, and I hated it. I loved my shop. I hated being an owner. And many, many groomers, which I am getting to this, that go out and open their own business, those businesses are going to fail. And it's not because they're not a good groomer or they don't have good customer service skills. It's because that paperwork sucks. And it strips all of your life away. And a lot of groomers don't have business savvy. But they also, once they have that they get, this little bit of independence and they can do things more their way. And it's hard to find a good fit. It really is. It's hard to find a good fit. And if you are one of those groomers that had a business and sold it or closed up shop and you're looking, if you go on a series of bad interviews, because I saw this in Groomer for Hire and I was like, girlfriend, no. Do not list everything that was wrong with the last 4 shops you worked at, that you worked at there for like less than a week. Don't. There was a 6-page manifesto in Groomer for Hire about giving up looking for employment in Florida, and this is why, and because shop number 1 was this, and shop number 2 was this, and shop number 3 was this, and shop number 4 was this. You sound like the most negative person on the planet, and I don't need your stress and drama in my shop. If you have a terrible boss, and the place is terrible, and everything is, oh my God, you have to do 15 dogs in a day, and you don't have a bather and there's one single like flying pig dryer that's like 2 horsepower and you can blow on the dog faster. You don't go to an interview and list everything that's terrible. When they ask, why are you looking? You simply say, I need a different work environment. It's not the grooming that I like to do. I want to slow down, or I want to be a little bit busy, or whatever the situation is. It's not why you feel the way you feel. It's what you feel. So instead of being like, my boss is such a bitch, and again, excuse my language, she's terrible, and, she's just mean, and she yells at me, and then they, like I'm never booked up. You just say, the shop I'm at's a little slower, and I'm looking for some place where, I can get a few more dogs on my book for the day so I can make more money. Or, the tables are broken and they're all stuck at one length and there's only cold water and blah, 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 blah. And, you say, well, it's an older facility and, I'm just looking for some place that's a little bit more modern and a little bit sleeker. And sleeker to me is cleaner. It's a code word for cleaner. Because if you think about IKEA furniture, you would never think of it being like dirty because it's all clean, straight lines. So it's not impossible to find a groomer. It's not impossible to find a bather, and it's not impossible to find a place that you want to work at. Everyone in this industry needs to treat each other like professionals. Yes, you're going to have a boss. Or maybe not. Maybe you're going to be the boss. But you want someone, if you are the boss, you need to be the person you want to work for. You want to be the 5th grade school teacher that inspired you to be a rocket scientist, but now you're a dog groomer, which is way cooler anyway. Less math sometimes. Same amount of geometrics. If you are an employee, you want to treat your boss with respect. But, as an employee, I like to keep my individuality too. Like, I have not necessarily set in my ways. I learn stuff all the time. I just have a certain way I like to handle stuff. We have to treat each other like professionals, and we have to stop demanding things. Demanding things is not fair to either side. It's a business, and what they're offering is something you can live with, or it's something you can't. As a business owner, you demanding things of your employee and then not finding anyone, you have to look at, what is being unreasonable in my ad? Yes, you must be available on some Saturdays. Everybody's busiest day is Saturday. However, being available for some Saturdays and being available every Saturday, and if you take off on Saturday, is not reasonable. Not. There's a mobile grooming place hiring near me, and they are hiring for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. No. That might work for the person that you had there because they have children and the children are in school, and then, during the week they stay at home and watch Days of Our Lives and eat bonbons, and that's great. But for the majority of groomers, nobody wants to work Saturday and Sunday. Groomers are, the majority of them are women, and even the men have kids and a life and want to see their significant others if they have them, or their pets, or maybe they play sports and they want to go for a run on Sunday. Races are Saturdays and Sundays. Football leagues, tag team football leagues are on Sundays, or they want to go to a baseball game or a football game. You can't make somebody give up their entire weekend every week and expect them to be happy. You can't expect somebody to do 30 dogs in a day, even if it's just baths, and them be a good, happy, because those dogs are not going to be good. Like, even if it's 20 boxers in a day would be a lot for me. Even if I'm not expected to brush them out or clip their nails, I would still OCD want to do that. So you have to, when you're saying, I can't find anybody decent to work for me, you have to kind of look at your idea of decent, and is it you, the groomer, who's been doing this for 10 years and you're the boss and everything that you do is the way that you want it done exactly, because then it might be cheaper to clone yourself and then wait 20 years for them to grow up. That's a joke, sort of. And it's not unreasonable to take somebody whose skill level might be a little bit less than what you're looking for and give them a little push. It's not training a bather from scratch to learn to groom. It's, did they handle the dog well? Is the dog clean? Is it, cute? Yeah, sure. Maybe they need to clean up their beard a little bit more, or like there's some hair hanging over the eyes. That's not a big deal. That's something that you can help them with, and in a couple of weeks it won't be an issue anymore. It's not, I know so many people who are like, well, we're going to hire a bather and then we're going to train them to groom. I was an ABC mentor, and I trained at PetSmart. I was the salon manager, and that sounds great that you're going to train them to do it the way that you want them to do it, except that it's going to take all of your time. It's going to take all of your time. There are plenty of people that come out of grooming schools that know the basics and can clean and do a nice job, a nice enough job. And then it just needs some polishing. So don't overlook those diamonds in the rough. And if you're in these Facebook groups and somebody's posting looking for a job and they have less, they're just out of grooming school, don't be mean. Don't be mean. So many people are mean. And they're like, well, just go open your own. That's where people get that idea from. And that's why you can't find an employee. Because you keep telling these new people, oh, well, if you think it's so easy, go open your own. And you know what? They will. And they'll succeed. Why? Because they'll either be dirt cheap because they don't know any better, or because they're tied to the community and they have enough friends and family that they'll get dogs in. And yeah, their quality might not be as good as yours. But owners, here's a secret. You could be the best groomer in the world, and if you're a jerk, you're going to lose clients, because clients want to feel respected. Your employees want to feel respected, and you want to feel respected as a boss. And the way you get loyalty is not through fear. It's not through fear, it's not through intimidation, it's not through yelling and being angry all the time. You get loyalty by being supportive. You get loyalty by saying, thank you, nice job, great going, couldn't do it without you. And so many groomers, hit or miss. It's hit or miss, or it's not consistent. You need to be consistent, both as an employee and a boss. And you need to respect each other. And obviously, respect is earned. And that's true. And even though you enter into an employee-employer relationship, you don't own that person. And that person that's employing you doesn't owe you anything. And you have to work out your own way to come together. And hopefully it's just organic and it's a great fit and you love it and you stay there forever. One of the girls near me, Jeanette, she has a groomer retiring after working there for 19 years. Anne Francis worked at the Village Groomer for 20. It's not because they couldn't get jobs elsewhere. It's because they found the fit and they grew together. So you need to really, really think about when you're looking for an employee and when you're looking for a job, what your expectations are. And you need to be respectful of that other side. You can't, again, demand 50%. It's just not realistic. And it doesn't mean anything. It could be 50% of $20. Who wants to do that? It could be 40% of $75. I'll take that job. especially if there's some kind of perk to losing that 10%. And I don't even care about the 10%. I care about my daily income. When I told my sister when she's looking, what you need to tell people is, I need to make X amount of commission per day. The percentage doesn't matter then. I could do 6 to 8 dogs per day, and I need to make at least $200 per day. I would prefer to make $250 per day or more, not including tips, because I don't rely on tips as income. I want prices set where I'm going to make a living. And that's another thing, employers. Make sure your pricing's right, because if you bring somebody on, you better be able to fill their week. You're providing somebody a job, and they need to live on that job. It can't just be like, oh, well, you get 2 dogs a day because that's my overflow. That employee needs to be booked up before you are. And that's really hard because, it's your income too. But if you're willing to bring on an employee, you better be able to afford them. And that means with dogs. So that's my slightly negative view on the groomer shortage problem. So I know that it's not my normal happy, positive self, but it's just really irritating to me. It's really irritating. I hate every time I try to explain that simple 50% thing to people looking, and they're like, I didn't take this job because it's only 43%. And I'm like, well, what was the 50% of? And they're like, 45. And I'm like, and it was 43% of 60. You could do it on a calculator, guys. You can do it on a calculator. It's 25 versus about $28. God. So anyway, this is like my big pet peeve with employees and employers, and we can all do better. So if we want respect as an industry, we need to start giving each other respect. We need to be nicer to each other, smarter about how we're getting paid and what really matters. And being nicer to newbies. Just be nicer to newbies. God, this poor girl in South Carolina can't find a job because she was just out of grooming school. And people tell her, go to PetSmart. Somebody hire her. She's got really cute grooms, and she does really nice photos. She's in Pro Groomer. It doesn't matter if you just have a year of experience, because there are 20-year-old groomers that are terrible. Terrible. Experience doesn't matter. It matters, is the dog clean? Is the dog cute looking? And was it handled nicely? That's what's important for a good groomer. The finishing touches, the polishing, all that speed, that comes later. So everybody, simmer down your expectations. Okay, I think I'm done now. I'm going to drink my coffee and I'll be in a better mood. But love you guys all. I'll see you in 2 weeks, which will be a happier one. And well, it will be a happier one because it'll be right before me and Liz Sines' hands-on workshop, which is almost sold out. And I'm doing a positive ed webinar with Mary in October. It's October 20th. And I'm doing something that relates to this one, which is called Bark of the Town, or Be the Bark of the Town. And it's all about first impressions. And that goes from social media to them taking their pet in for an appointment, and then the checkout procedure, and how you make a great first impression through all of that. I'm speaking at Hershey on Sunday. I filled up my speaker contract. I'm very excited. I'll be doing my breed standard trim on a pet salon quality dog. It will be a Bichon or a Schnauzer. I don't know which yet, but that's Sunday at 4 p.m. at Hershey. And then I am speaking at New England, and I'm doing the short but not shaved and other things owners say. And that's all about trying to determine what they're actually talking about, because owners and us, we don't speak the same language. And that is New England on Friday. It's part of the mixed breed series. And I think that that's at 3 p.m. It might be 4, but it's on the schedule. So that's what I have coming up. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the Sunday. I hope your weather's as beautiful as mine. It's really, really nice with less race cars.